Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Common Sense Crypto channel. As with you always, this is Rich doing another video today on XRP. So I hope you're all having a wonderful day today, wherever you are in this great world. We're going to talk about XRP. And I got to start with this from Crypto Brothers. Arizona revives controversial Bitcoin reserve bill. Here's what it means for crypto seizures. But this isn't just a Bitcoin reserve bill. They also mention digital assets. This is a renewed initiative to create a reserve fund for digital assets acquired through criminal forfeiture, with the bill now heading to the House for final consideration. So what they're saying is that if they are to seize illegal cryptocurrencies or they were used in illicit activity, then they would go into a digital asset reserve fund. That's what this bill is all about. But right away, the Bitcoin maxis have to sell it as a Bitcoin only bill. Then there's the one in Texas. Texas is now the third U.S. state with its own Bitcoin strategic reserve. Establishes a Texas Bitcoin Reserve, creates a Texas Strategic Bitcoin Reserve as a special fund, separate from the state's general revenue, allows the state to invest in Bitcoin. The Texas Comptroller is authorized to buy, hold, and manage Bitcoin and possibly other digital assets with a market cap of over $500 billion. First of all, market cap in crypto doesn't even matter. Utility matters. And most likely, XRP will be well above $500 billion market cap once this cycle ends. Most likely during this cycle with the ETFs as well. But, you know, if you're going to create a strategic reserve, why not create a reserve that you could actually utilize what's in the reserve to fix the economy, fix the state economy? Maybe Texas could utilize something like XRP to move money around much cheaper and much faster. But these Bitcoin reserves, it's like they create them to keep the hype going. They all want to be part of crypto now. Like it's the next big thing. We get it. But most of us have been in this space long enough to tell you that there's assets that have real world use case and real world utility. And then there's assets that run on propped up tether and hype. Kraken is relocating its U.S. headquarters to Wyoming, embracing the state's crypto-friendly regulations and low-tax environment. Everybody wants to move to Wyoming. But here's a fun fact. Ripple did it a long time ago. Ripple now registered as a Wyoming business. Ripple Markets Wyoming LLC. And that happened right after the court case started. Right after Ripple versus SEC started in December of 2020. February 2021, Ripple moved a business into Wyoming. Like I said, that whole case was all about slowing Ripple down, nothing more. And Wyoming Stable Token Commission targets August 20th for WYST stablecoin mainnet launch. So Wyoming's going to be the first state to have their own stablecoin. I think Florida has been working on that as well. But they don't have the XRP ledger listed as a possibility to launch their stablecoin. But I definitely thought it was worth a mention because I think every single state is going to eventually have their own stablecoin. XRP, put out by Ripple, is, we think, a game changer. Take a listen to Tukrium's CEO on XRP.
But XRP, put out by Ripple, is, we think, a game changer. We think that the settlements, the near instantaneous settlements, the transfer of money primarily, and it will result in the transfer of other assets as they build out the system. But we think that the tokenization and digitalization and the basically blockchain, using the blockchain well, is XRP is being built to do that. Okay, so we filed for when the old SEC regime, which was very unfriendly to crypto, left. We filed literally the first business day. We filed the first business day after Inauguration Day to start a levered XRP fund. We think people want that. They can trade it in their futures account in their stock account without having a margin account. It's very easy. It launched 11 business days ago, and the flows have been astounding. Absolutely astounding. The reception for this thing, it has a great ticker, okay? It's a 2 times XRP levered product, and the ticker is XXRP, double XRP. So double your exposure, double XRP is the ticker. And so it has done really, really well. Thank you for asking. We chose it because we have a levered corn product and a levered wheat product. We think that, aggressive traders can use those. These are not for, ordinary people, obviously. They're for people who have a very specific, very short-term, very aggressive posture in the market. And so because the daily reset on these things to keep them at a levered position where you want them to be does cause you can lose money in the sideways market, okay, in a levered product. People need to understand it. So read the paperwork. People understand, but there's been a pent-up demand for XRP, which is a popular coin that has a very definite use case that will change Wall Street.
It's going to change Wall Street, and there's pent-up demand for XRP. Plus, he talked about the flows. The flows alone have been astounding. And wait until those spot XRP ETFs go live. The wave of money that's going to flow in, it's going to make the Bitcoin ETFs look like they were just a game, because institutions, they think like we do. They want to invest in something that actually does something. They don't want to just buy and hold something. They want to be able to get exposure to it early, start to figure it out, and then watch how quick they start buying the actual asset. This comes from Canary funds. That's also how I got focused on XRP. Take a listen to this.
Big industrial uses, enterprise uses. It's a little bit different than your typical blockchain. But when I was in Korea, I realized that it was a top 5 traded token. And there was also a lot going on there. By the way, that's also how I got to focus on XRP, because it's another one that's huge in Japan, huge in Korea. And they usually lead the way in technology, those 2 countries. I mean, that was something I learned from my days in video games, right? Those 2 countries led the way in video games. They had a version of the iPhone 5 years before we had the iPhone. They were using it for, consumer purposes when we were still on commercial over here back in 2007.
And that's why Korea and Japan are going so big on XRP, because they're way ahead of everyone else. They already know where XRP is going. That's why XRP outperforms both Bitcoin and Ethereum in Korea and Japan, because they see the future and they want to be invested in that. And now people here are finally starting to catch on, starting to realize that XRP is being implemented everywhere. All those Ripple rails that run through all these countries. Wait until XRP goes live on those rails. This comes from Johnny Dean, and he has a video clip of David Sachs. Now, they don't want you getting yield off of a stable coin. They don't want you getting that 5% on RLUSD. Take a listen.
Is that the stablecoin issuers cannot pass on interest to the token holders.
Why is that?
Look, I mean, I don't know if there's a great principled reason. This was a compromise that was necessary to get the support of the banking industry, quite frankly.
They see it as competition, I'm betting.
Well, there was a lot of concern from community banks that if stablecoins were paying 5% interest, it would put them out of business. Personally, I think that concern, although understandable from them, I don't think that that's what would have happened. But these are the types of compromises, quite frankly, that you need in order to pass legislation. I hope that at some point in the future, we'll revisit that and allow stablecoin issuers to kind of just do what they want to do. And that'll be easier once the banks get into the act and they're participating in this industry.
Got it.
But right now, they're total outsiders, and you can understand the fear factor.
So the banks are afraid of stablecoins that give yield, that pay 5% interest, because it would put the banks out of business. But most people are already pushing away from the banks. This is why the banks need to get on board with crypto, with stablecoins, as quick as they possibly can. The big banks, they're already ahead of the smaller banks. They're already involved in this space. But the fact that that had to get put in that bill, that you can't get interest by holding RLUSD, I think that's absolutely ridiculous. Or any other stable coin as well. Lawyer denies rumors about U.S. seizing XRP escrow for reserve. I just talked about this yesterday, and I see so many people still pushing this bullshit narrative that the U.S. government is coming for your XRP. They are not coming for your XRP. Bill Morgan said the same thing. And I think it's to make people worry. I get it. XRP is a cryptocurrency that's a major disruptor to the banking system. It's built to literally move the world's money. But the U.S. government will never have to seize Ripple's escrow. In fact, Ripple's escrow, most likely, they already came to terms with that. They probably said, okay, we're going to give X amount to the Federal Reserve. We're going to give X amount to the BIS, to the IMF, and so on. And I think this was probably all worked out years ago when Brad was getting a sit down at all those tables where they were talking about cross-border payments. But for them to come and just seize XRP, it makes zero sense to me. It's almost like the buyback scenario where people think that the Fed is going to give you $33,000 per XRP. Well, what about all the holders in every other country? Who's going to buy back their XRP? You know, people are going to be selling all the way to the top. And as they're selling, institutions are going to be buying. That's what we're going to witness happen over the coming months. And then we're eventually, because now we're already seeing the treasuries and the reserves set up for XRP, you will see scarcity because liquidity pools are real and XRP delivers on-demand liquidity. Congressman Thomas Massie calls to end the Federal Reserve. The Fed has lost its ability to set rates. Would be a great time to end the Fed. Once again, the Fed doesn't want to cut rates, and Tom Massie doubles down on ending the Fed. I don't think that will happen until at least 2026, when Powell's term is up. Let's see what happens then. I still think Ripple could emerge as a replacement for the Fed. Think about it. If they choose to utilize RLUSD as the world's reserve currency or the U.S. digital dollar, it would make sense for Ripple to replace the Fed. And us as XRP holders, we would just become bank branches at that point. Because again, people don't have to seize your XRP because you will be loaning out your XRP and getting passive income from it. Paying for beer and tacos with XRP at the after party of XRP Ledger Japan Community Day. I don't know who the hell would be spending their XRP right now. I saw where somebody bought a car in Utah with their XRP as well. But why would you buy anything? You should be holding on to your XRP for dear life. We are so close to the finish line now. We're very close to a new financial system now. Now's the time you do nothing. And paying for beer and tacos with XRP right now looks great. It's like, hey, look, I just bought something with XRP. Give it a few months. Give it until, let's say, 2027. Could you imagine how much that XRP would be worth? It's like the guy who bought pizzas with Bitcoin. No difference. But you know, we are going to see a lot happen over the coming months. You're going to see people cashing out, talking about the car they just bought, the house they just bought. You have choices as an investor. You could take profit in this run, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I definitely would not sell my entire bag. And until it happens, stay patient, stay positive, and let's get rich together. With that said, I'm going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great night.